Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 10th of June. Welcome to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme, with a panel of invited guests where we discuss the issues of the day with you for the next 2 hours with me, Giles Brown, of course. Going to be looking at several topics today, including, the ongoing situation in Los Angeles, with National Guard troops, National Guard and also Marines being deployed on the streets of Los Angeles. Do you think that President Trump has gone too far? Is he authorized to take these actions? Also going to be looking at some of the apparent U-turn ahead of tomorrow's spending review, the winter fuel payments that Rachel Reeves is moving. We might look as well at the ship that was heading towards Gaza with Greta Thunberg. There's a trigger for some of you. Greta Thunberg, described as the Israelis as a selfie yacht. But your thoughts on the ongoing and deteriorating situation in Gaza as well, plus whatever else is crossing your viewpoint if you wish to get involved with, and whatever. It could be big, it could be small, it could be national, international, even local. We'd love to hear from you on today's Viewpoint if you want to get involved with the show, and why wouldn't you? These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And indeed, we have the poll on the Facebook page, Talk Radio Europe Official. I'm asking the question, is President Trump justified in calling in the National Guard in Los Angeles? Yes, no, or don't know. At the moment, we need to get a few more votes in, I think, because we've got 100% saying that he isn't. If you want to get involved with the show, those are the numbers. Let's look at the front pages, though, of your papers in the UK. Under the headline, Winter Wonderful, the Daily Mirror says Rachel Reeves has delighted pensioners. The I newspaper says her decision was warmly welcomed, but Labour MPs have warned us to water down plans to cut disability benefits to avoid being forced into another embarrassing U-turn later. It was foolish, is the Sun's headline, while the Daily Mail says Ms Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer are deluded for claiming the original cut was right and suggesting they are now in a position to restore the payments because they fixed the economy. Both papers are demanding an apology. The Daily Express says the humiliating U-turn is a victory for pensioners, while the Daily Telegraph claims the change will cause chaos for the pensioners on incomes above £35,000 because they'll receive their winter fuel payment and then have to work out how to pay it back. According to the Times, the Chancellor has refused to meet the Home Secretary's demand for extra police funding, despite warnings that the government could miss its targets on law and order as a result. The paper says Rachel Reeves imposed a settlement on Vivek Cooper yesterday after weeks of negotiations went to the wire. A source said there would still be a real terms increase in funding for police, but it would fall short of what Ms Cooper had pushed for. The Guardian and the Telegraph highlight the government's decision to invest £14.2 billion to build the Sizewell C nuclear plant in Suffolk. The Telegraph says the move will address fears that the rush to build wind and solar would leave the UK vulnerable to blackouts. Writing in the paper, Energy Secretary Ed Miliband says demand for electricity is expected to at least double by 2050, and new nuclear is a critical source of firm baseload power. A report in the Daily Mail says that Reform UK will later appoint the TV presenter David Bull as the party's new chairman, following the resignation last week of Zia Yusuf. The paper says Mr. Bull made his name fronting a popular show about ghosts and the paranormal. On the Rupert Murdoch channel, Talk UK. Finally, the Daily Mirror and the Times report that a new treatment which zaps hard-to-reach cancers using sound waves is to be offered on the NHS. The Times explains that the machine uses ultrasound waves to create a tightly focused cluster of bubbles from gases naturally present in the target tissue. And as the bubbles form and collapse in microseconds, they tear apart cancer cells, leaving surrounding organs undamaged. The Daily Mail says until now the treatment was available only in the US. So your pages today. The Sun, it was fuelish to say sorry. Reeves' winter misery U-turn. The Metro, humiliating. Chancellor's winter fuel U-turn hammered. The Daily Mail, deluded after huge U-turn. Reeves refuses to apologise, bizarrely claiming she'd been right to cut the handouts. Starmer is ridiculed for suggesting move is now possible because of Labour's fixed our stricken economy. Victory for pensioners, as the Daily Express. After 298 days of relentless campaigning by Your Express, Rachel Reeves finally restores the winter fuel payment to 9 million OAPs, but fails to apologise. The winter fuel U-turn gets warm welcome, but Labour MPs warn Reeves, don't make same mistake on disability benefits. The Mirror, winter wonder fuel, Labour's U-turn joy for OAPs. The Times, millions escape winter fuel cuts. That's their headline. The Guardian, Labour pledges £14 billion for nuclear to get UK off fossil fuel roller coaster. Daily Telegraph's got a picture of Greta Thunberg on the front. £14 billion for nuclear to keep the lights on. And finally, the Daily Star. Says that Britons are increasingly abandoning traditional religion and seeking solace in looking to the meaning of life in wizards, goblins, and monsters as attendance at traditional religious ceremonies fall. So they have said wizards, goblins, and monsters replacing religion. Nation hunts for the meaning of life in folklore for folk's sake. They say, the Daily Star, the Law's prayer, with law being as in, L-O-R-E. So those for better or worse or all manner of pixies and goblinry are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 10th of June. Thank you very much for that. Good to have you with us, Richard. I will find out. We're talking about wizards and gremlins and goblins. Well, there seems to be some sort of malevolent sprite not letting me know that we had an ecstasy of silence. Good morning to you, Andres.
Good morning to you. Not again, Giles.
Again, and we're joined live on the line from our man in London, Rex Sladen. Morning, Rex.
Good morning, Giles. Good morning, Spain.
How are you this morning?
Still above ground.
Still above ground.
Do you know, Rex? I would have introduced you as Rex the Legend.
Would you know?
Well, that would be highly complimentary. But I'm very happy with the Woke Finder General.
Yes, the Woke Finder General is in the house. If you've got something you wish to put before my panel of invited guests, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
So, quite a couple of things to get through. If you want to get in touch with the show, if you've got something that's bothering you or have a comment on what's happening, I've got a poll running on the Facebook page, Talk Radio Europe Official, and we are asking the question before we go on to the main question of the day, which is as follows: Do you think that President Trump was right to call in the National Guard, and he's put Marines on standby if not on the street? Let me know if you can vote yes, no, or don't know with those one. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Studio@tre.radio is the email. The Facebook page is Talk Radio Official. You can WhatsApp me on +34 645 99, 67, 95. Let's go to the story that was making, was crossing my news feeds anyway over last night, which is the developing story in the United States, in Los Angeles. Speaking to some friends last night in LA, because, hey, I have friends in Los Angeles, and they were saying it's a very strange situation because where they are, there seems to be nothing happening. It's very quiet indeed. There are only sort of 2 or 3 pockets of these protests. The protests coming on the back of the raids by ICE, which is immigration, and I'm just trying to remember the rest. ICE stands for immigration. I think it's customs, or anyway. They had basically carried out some raids at Home Depot, which is a ferreteria, a hardware store, which apparently hires people by the day, and they were literally snatching these people or detaining these people because they didn't have the relevant paperwork. But Trump went above the governor of California, calling in the National Guard. Apparently in the States, it's normally the governor who brings in the National Guard. The last time the president went above or over the head of the governor was Lyndon B. Johnson in the civil rights movement at Selma, which was 1964-65. Rex, have you been following this story at all?
I have indeed, yes. It is really a question of whether Trump is acting more in a dictator-like fashion by ignoring the governor. As you've just said, it's only happened once before. Whether or not he is correct in doing that, of course, we're not on the ground, we don't know. But the problem we have with Trump and his politics is one word: unpredictable. And you never know what's around the corner. And when he talks, he tends to talk in dribble sentences, probably as I do as well. But he is, I think, acting. When people say, what do I think of Trump? I think I've told you this before on a previous show. The only way I can describe him is an imperious oaf.
Right, okay. Cutting your words there.
I'm not allowed to. I'm not. It's a description. It may not be totally complimentary, but I think it's very apt. And I think that we all have to be very much on guard because we don't know what's around the corner with him. Whether or not he's doing his own placement, his own position, any good by behaving like this remains to be seen. But rioting in any description is not good. And does one feel sorry for the victims, legal or illegal? But I would like to tell you a little story later about a raid by immigration. But it's on a lighter note.
Right, okay.
But, after we've gone more deeply into the rioting, as you have mentioned.
By the way, ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Andres, your thoughts on what's been happening there? I mean, just in the last hour, they're going to put 700 Marines on the streets to help protect federal buildings.
I'll get to that in a minute. I think what we have to look at is at the core of the conflict there. The core of the conflict is immigration. What that's been triggered by the Trump administration, by what he said originally was he was to fight illegal immigration. I don't think anyone can disagree with chasing up illegal immigrants. The protesters, what they're saying is that what they're pursuing is people who live there and have a life there and they go to work there and everything. And they just basically, if you got an accent, you're out. Yeah. And that's why people are protesting. They said this is not pursuing illegal immigrants. This is just pursuing anyone who's not American. And that's where the core of the problem is. The display of force that he is using over and above what the governor of California is doing. It just plays into his hands to show his voters, not the Americans in general, but his voters, that he is delivering on what he said he was going to do, which is to end immigration. So this is a political movement from his side. The reality on the ground is that there are people injured. That people, the riots may grow in size when people see what's happening on the ground, and it's just a snowball effect. So he's just using immigration to get support from his core voters.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Because this is something that could really snowball out, because you can argue Los Angeles has, you have a police force who said they weren't threatened. I mean, if you look at some of the situations we've had, and those of us with long memories we will remember the Los Angeles riots, of course, with when there was the beating of the police suspect Rodney King back in 1991, 92. Those were full blown riots. You've had the insurrection, Capitol Hill. That was much more of a violent situation. No National Guard called in there. And as we know, President Trump has previous on this with the governor of California, because when there were the fires, for example, the wildfires last year, the governor of California and the mayor of Los Angeles called for the aid, or the federal aid, and Trump was begrudging in that. He's making a statement in here. He's going over the top, because obviously West Coast seen as obviously a Democrat stronghold for the liberal quote elites, etc. And Trump, if they split, we split all these sort of, and it comes on the back as well of the mass deportations to the Central American jails in Honduras, El Salvador, that we saw, and the return this week just gone, of course, of the Latin American gentleman who had been detained, they say falsely, been rounded up because he had the wrong tattoos on, and now he's been returned to the US, but is now facing a raft of charges, which is gang membership, people trafficking, everything. They're throwing the proverbial book at him. So this is an interesting one. We're trying, and if the people of Los Angeles, or those communities that feel threatened, principally, the Latino communities in Los Angeles, if they react, Trump goes in heavier, and then we have the full scale. He can say, "Well, I told you so." This is an example of a sanctuary city, as they call them, gone wrong, and he may react to that in places like Los Angeles. We're talking about Chicago. I mean, if this was to happen in Miami, who knows what the results could be? Rex, any thought on that?
The only thing is that when in any society, and particularly in America, having been there myself many times all over and seen what's going on, and of course one can apply the same rules to Spain and to the UK, is when you remove a certain layer of the workforce, whether they're illegal or legal, who's going to do their jobs? That's the other thing. And it leaves a gaping hole. We all know, for example, in the UK, there is a shortage of hospitality workers throughout the country in all aspects of the business. And we know two reasons for that. One was COVID, and the other was Brexit. Whether things will right themselves in the coming years, who knows? But certainly what's going on in America will leave employment gaps, and there'll be, if you think of the particular type of immigrant who would perhaps be a gardener or a wash-up or a nanny or, anything that supports families. And when that block of employees are removed, then it's going to cause a bit of aggro.
Thanks. I'm just going to go to the poll we got. I'm asking people on the Facebook page, which is Talk Radio Official, if you don't know by now, is President Trump justified in calling the National Guard? 20% say yes, 80% say no. Got no don't knows at the moment. Thank you to Joy, who's got involved, saying he is overrunning all the constitutional laws and arresting legal people without due process, and they are disappearing with no known location. Families are going crazy. The military is shooting at reporters. There have been 2 cases. Of course, most famous, an Australian reporter was shot yesterday with rubber bullets at reporters from other countries with rubber bullets. For now, he wants no peaceful protests and has threatened to arrest Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California. He is a major threat to the world the way he wants it. Frank comes in. He's doing it to distract from the Epstein list. Oh, that was, of course, we haven't talked about that yet. And why don't ICE go after the employers in red states that hire so-called illegals? 952784000. Andrea.
This is a good point that your WhatsApp that you just read made. It's due process. What seems to be happening here is that it's a blanket persecution of anyone that it's a foreign national. And another point that Rex made there, which is very well made, is that there is a demand for immigration. That's why immigration exists. And people go to America and Europe as well, because there's an element of jobs that need to be done that the locals don't do. So there is a call for immigration. Let's not forget that when we talk about immigration, we talk about a phenomena, but behind it, you've got people, and people with individual circumstances, individual cases. Yes, there are some illegals that shouldn't be there, and they should follow a process to get into the country and to sort of go there to work and to find a job and, and integrate into society. And that should be the correct way. But there's no government, nor in Europe, nor in America, they have found a process to integrate the needed immigration into their societies. We've just put a wool over the eyes and say, we don't want to face this problem. We're just going to be against it. Blanket a rejection to immigration that sits well with people, because all the populist politicians have blamed all the things that go bad in our society to one single problem, which is immigration. And the result has things like Trump, Brexit, and other dictators there, where we don't look at the individuals and we don't analyse country per country the needs that we have for workforces coming from immigrants. So it's just a problem that is being ignored, and there is no systems in place to integrate that influx of people.
Rex, your thoughts on this one, because obviously it's very easy, and you've seen this in the UK as well. You talked about the hospitality industry, which you obviously have experience with. When we talk about sort of, Andres is saying we don't look at individual cases, well, perhaps we could argue we don't need to, because there's so many of them. But what you're seeing in the States is anybody from Latino, so if you've got tattoos, if you're a Latino male of a certain age and you just happen to be standing by, it seems at the wrong place, you'll get swept up and taken away. But the demonization of people, right? They're all quote unquote rapists coming over the border, murderers, drug dealers. In the UK to a certain extent as well, we've seen this with because of your experience, a lot of the Polish workforce left, and the way that Romanians and Albanians have been demonized as basically sort of Dracula's second cousin in terms of their depiction in certain sectors of the media. I mean, once you start saying a whole blanket of people are basically this, that, or the other, and dehumanizing them, then you are on it's a populist trope, but it's a very worrying trope, Rex, because as you know, people are a darn sight more complex than that.
Again, I'm just going to go back and say, why is Trump doing this? Why is Trump behaving like this? Everything was fine. America was, poddling along quite nicely. And then suddenly he starts to upturn all these nasty stones and create unnecessary havoc. Going back on the immigration situation, I remember in the UK when I started my first restaurant in 1974, the onus, this was the law, of course, then in the UK, the onus was on the employee to prove their legitimacy rather than the employer. And I can't remember when the law changed and made it the other way around, when the onus was on the employer, not on the employee. But a quick funny story is that one day my restaurant got raided because they thought there were illegal workers in there. And as I just said, the onus was on the employer was not responsible. He just employed in good faith. And if the employee was illegal, that was their problem. So when the immigration guys came in the restaurant, I had 3 illegal staff. 2 ran downstairs through the kitchen and got over an 8-foot wall and then disappeared into the neighbours' gardens. And the 3rd guy sat down in the restaurant and pretended to be a customer. And the immigration just walked past him, not realising. And we thought it was absolutely hilarious. But sadly, the laws changed and we were inevitably responsible for who we employed. And the onus rested firmly on us that they had to be legal.
I'm just wondering if they didn't trip over George. Yep, so go on.
Yeah, in the States, whether or not the onus is on the employee or the employer.
If you know
maybe one of the listeners could answer that question.
You just stole my thunder as always. I was just wondering in your restaurant, Rex, was the one that didn't trip over George Best on the way you're running through.
We had all that. That's another.
Rex, just a point of responsibility of the employer and employee. Surely you employ in good faith, but the employee will have to come to you with at least a national insurance number, which means that the employee has gone and got his papers with the Social Security and the administration. You get a national insurance number. With that national insurance number, that allows the employer to take them on and to register the payments and the taxes and the national insurance and everything else.
Yeah,
so the responsibility, it's both ways, isn't it? I don't know. I've never had a restaurant in
You have
England.
You have a point. But again, you see, the governance of what was going on then with employees in the early 70s was rather, should we say, in inverted commas, flexible. So somebody could walk in, we'd give them a job, pay them cash. It wasn't our problem. But you're right. After that, of course, all things tightened up, and of course, you could not get away with it. But my point that I'm trying to make this morning is that whether or not in America the onus is on the employee or the employer, that's I think a really valid point. Other than the fact that I do think that Trump is behaving in an imperious manner, and I don't think long term America's in a very good place. And as a result of that, it rebounds firmly onto us in Europe and around the world.
A quick break and then back with more Viewpoints.
Viewpoint.
Giles Brown.
952-78-4000 is the phone number. Studio at TRE.radio is the email. The Facebook page is Talk Radio Official. You can WhatsApp me on +34 645 99 67 95. I'm joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and live from the Thames with Rex Leyland. Looking at some of the WhatsApps coming in. Morning, Richard. It's for the employer to check that the person he is employing is legal and for due diligence to be executed. Dear Giles, this is Paul. This is Paul from the People's Republic of Manilva. Bibache. It says, Dear Giles, why are you asking British listeners of TRE what they think about what is going on in California? You might as well ask Californian people what they think of the winter fuel allowance. Is this your usual very high standard of journalism? Well, we're a broad church. What Andres is laughing about.
No, I'm laughing because I'm Spanish and I've got an opinion on winter fuel allowance as well. So, listen, these are global issues, and we all have our opinions, and this is a program of opinion, so that's what we're here for.
Yes, indeed. But thanks for the message. And it's always good to know that you're. I'm feeling a lot from the People's Republic of Manilva. The poll at the moment is President Trump justified in calling in the National Guard. At the moment, we have a very steady, I would say, on this one. We have a very steady 80% saying he's not justified. 20% yes say yes he is. I'm looking at some of the stuff coming out. Winter fuel allowance is not a global issue. Thank you very much indeed. There seems to be a war of words developing between President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom. On Truth Social, Trump says that Los Angeles would be obliterated without Trump stepping in. This is what the president said, the very incompetent Governor Gavin Newsom, which is actually, I'm surprised you haven't used that against me, listeners. News scum beats toe rag. And Mayor Karen Bass should be saying, and this is all in caps, "Thank you, President Trump. You are so wonderful. We would be nothing without you, sir." Trump also tells reporters he thinks it's great if Newsom was arrested. Newsom has responded, calling it an unmistakable step towards authoritarianism. And meanwhile, when Trump borders our Tom Horman threatened the same thing, Newsom didn't mince his words. He said, "Arrest me, let's get it over, tough guy." So one of the things is, because this second version, this Trump 2.0, it seems to, when he on those first steps, that golden period of the first time he was president, he had some advisors who might say, maybe it's not such a good idea to call in the National Guard, Mr. President. And now, of course, he is surrounded by people who perhaps are fully invested in his vision, shall we say.
I think the word is sycophant.
Well, okay, but I prefer the words, thank you, Rex, but I was saying fully invested in his vision, and especially with Hesketh, who is obviously, he of the famous social media WhatsApp group. So he owes Trump one for getting his job. So if Trump says, I want to call in the Marines, or I want to drop whatever on central LA, then you're not going to come into much standing in your way. Sycophants, Rex, you think?
Well, would you trust the vice president?
With what exactly?
Exactly. You've answered the question.
Yes.
Thank you. Well done. Well encapsulated.
Yes, indeed. Andres, you're looking pensive.
Well, I'm looking pensive. I think on his first term in power, Donald Trump he hadn't had such a resounding victory in the election. Also, he had the Congress, which remained Democrat. He had the judiciary putting the control over what he could do and he couldn't do. This second time round, he had a bigger support in the result of the election. He's got the chambers, Republican chambers, supporting him on everything. He's managed to control the judiciary by appointing the Supreme Court, etc. So he's got a full support behind him. He feels very, very strong, and he feels that he can display whatever he wants to do. Yeah. Even against, if you look at all the judicial sentences against things that he's doing, but he doesn't care. He's behaving almost, I hate to say it, but it looks to me as he's behaving almost like a dictator.
Now, here's the thing, because you've got the midterms coming up next year. coming up next year, and I've heard people have been mooting the suggestion that he's doing this as a test to see what sort of reaction he runs into, and therefore, if you want to suspend midterm elections, because a lot of people are getting bitten on the economy in the States. They may be thinking, hang on a second, this isn't the Trump I voted for. It'd be very easy for him to go, we're in a state of emergency. I'm overriding, because one will argue that he has gone completely he's gone completely thermonuclear on the options available to him here, and this is just a tester to see if he can get away with it, and who's got to say he couldn't do the same during the midterms, suspend the midterms, because hey, we've got a dangerous situation here. I've found this piece of, and they tend to be sort of buried in constitutional register, that I wish to evoke this piece from 1870, whatever it was, or 1965, and I'm putting troops on the street, or the National Guard on the street. Andreas, your thoughts?
As I said, he feels he's got full support from every angle. So he's doing whatever he wants to do. The midterm elections will be a good way of judging how popular he is after the first 2 years, which. I don't know what the polls say at the moment, whether he's still as popular as he was when he won the election or not. I mean, some of the guys...
A lot of Americans are leaving as well. There has been an exodus of those that can afford to quit the US. And somebody said to me the other day, they're walking around Notting Hill. They didn't hear one English accent, only American.
Rex, I've got something for you here. This is from Michael in San Pedro. Good morning, Michael. Rex, to call Trump an imperious oaf when 80 million Americans voted for him is disingenuous, to say the least. Hang on, I haven't finished yet, Rex. Hold your powder. He's doing what the voters wanted and kicking out all the illegal migrants from various countries, many of whom are criminals. Good on him. Shame we can't have him in the UK. I've got a call coming in, so we go live to the lines. Hold your powder, Rex. Morning caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, Felix, sir.
Good morning, Felix.
Hiya.
Good morning, Felix.
Good morning. Rex there said that Trump was an imperious oaf.
Yes.
And that phrase very definitely stuck in my mind. And it wasn't a casual phrase either, because he didn't just come out of it here and now. He would have thought about that, because it's not something you say casually. So what did we gain? What did he gain by that? Because there are so many issues thrown up in these kind of discussions, such as the issue of future global warming and like hundreds of millions of people trying to escape areas of the world where they cannot live.
Right.
But is the system that Biden brought in after Trump lost the election, where the border was, as far as I can gather, and I know I'm taking one side's propaganda in this, was pretty well wide open to cross over, and that was the situation under Biden. And now they have talked now about like 10 million, 15 million people having come across the border during the time of Biden. I don't know whether that's correct or not, but you'd think that you could get the exact numbers of that somewhere.
Well, yeah, it's a tricky one, because it's such a large border, isn't it? That's perhaps the problem. And they're coming over at
come over in masses, Giles, and it becomes unmanageable. Now, the question I just want to open up the discussion here.
Yeah.
Is to ask the question from all of you. Yourself, Andreas and Rex, because you haven't expressed it yet, is what is the system of passports all about? If you plan to enter another country, you aim to bring your passport, and you've got to have a passport. As soon as somebody comes to a border and crosses it without a passport, or even worse, tear it up when they come in, that obviously makes them an illegal immigrant, right there and then. They're in the country illegally, and let's put it another way. supposing there was a revolution in America and there was a communist government took power in America.
Okay,
which you need to consider. Would a communist government allow unrestricted immigration into the country? That's basically all.
Okay,
that question.
Thank you very much for the question there, Felix. Good to hear from you as always. Rex, yes, any thoughts on that one?
Well, who is it? Was it Michael?
Michael in San Pedro, yes.
Michael in San Pedro.
If you say the word, if you say imperialist oath, that's. I mean, as the woke finder general, I'm expecting that sort of behaviour from you.
Well, I mean, I thought that one through very carefully. In that he is acting in an imperialistic manner. Now, that is the polite way of describing his governance rather than dictatorial. I'm not saying he's a dictator. I'm saying he's behaving like an emperor.
It's okay. I've just got another call coming in. Sorry to keep you up and down, but we've got a caller.
No, that's fine.
Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. Peter.
Morning, Peter.
Good morning. Oh, other tyranny, emperor, you name it. Have you heard of the anacyclosis theory?
I
haven't, Peter, so please enlighten me.
Okay, well, it goes back to the Roman times, Polybius. It's this circle of control. It goes from monarchy to aristocracy to democracy, and we go round in this full circle. And the founding fathers of America, 250 years ago coming up, or whatever it is around about that, they studied it so hard to make sure they didn't make the same mistakes. And as far as I'm concerned, that American Constitution has been absolutely fantastic. It's checks and balances. One of the best ways to run a country, I think, in the world. People say he's riding roughshod over the Constitution. Well, you tell me where he's broken the Constitution, and it may be another discussion. But the point before literally collapse is the ochlocracy, which is the mob rule. And this is the point in history. Maybe when you do your little survey, maybe if people could look at that, ask them where we are in history looking at that circle. And I think we're moving into the mob rule bit. And what people are not picking up on, and this is California. California, unless you're super wealthy, is a toilet. We're not talking about a Skid Row here,
right.
Are we?
No.
Have you seen Skid Row?
The area in California, but I mean, okay. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to my mates. I was talking to my friends, Nicolene over there yesterday, and a couple in Simi Valley. You know what's the area, right? And they're saying it seems to be happening. It's a big city. It's an awfully long way. It's a big area, and they're talking about very small pockets. Yes, there are scenes with cars being burnt, but a couple of Google cars being torched doesn't. Can you argue it's got mob rule, Peter? I mean, really?
No. I'm not talking that actual situation. I'm talking about the world at the moment, what we live in. You cannot walk down streets anymore without this mobs and really nice, good people, good families just staying out of the way. And all we've got is this hatred and this nastiness and this poverty, and people used to be poor, but people used to get on, but there's just this nastiness all the time, and it's being whipped up by the politicians. And the big point you're missing is California, and like you said, LA is massive. California is the biggest state in America. It's the fifth largest economy in the world or something like that, so it's tiny. There's mobs setting fire to places in Northern Ireland yesterday. It's happening in Scotland. We're not talking about, it's tiny, but it's the left, or the globalists, the Newsoms of this world, they're trying Trump, and they knew they knew. He said this would happen, and he has to stamp it down. And what he's doing is not unconstitutional. It's his decision, and he knows that they're going to try and get America burning through the summer, and they're trying to whip it up. This all started because of a rumor that someone was going to somewhere to do something. So we all know it's a red flag. We all know they're testing Trump, and he's the wrong man to test because he will stamp on it pretty quick. But this could escalate all across America, all because they don't care about the public, and it's all about their own little bit of power.
Who's they? Sorry, Peter, for being so pedantic. Who's
the globalists? They're hanging on for dear life to try and keep, like Felix said about climate change and all that. If you drill down on everything, we're being forced to do things that we wouldn't normally do, and it's escalating so fast. And people, normal, everyday, decent people are sick to death of it. And going back to California, because it is California, and I personally know California, family in Vegas and California, Los Angeles, friends all over the place. This California law, when people say about the employer, California law, as an undocumented alien, you've got exactly the same rights as anyone else. You can walk in and get a job, you can get that, because it's California. Now, what they're doing is people say, oh, he's getting rid of if they're not a white face or they're not American or that. He's going after the world's worst, and he's making a point that it scares the other people. It stops them coming across the border. There is a bigger picture going on here, and the anti-Trumpers are trying to play it. There's a massive game going on. We're just pawns in that little game, and we're dispendable. But these lot are fighting over power, and we're shifting into a very dangerous time. I'm saying it for a long time, but if you look at the anacyclosis, and it's just Google it, see a picture, see the 7-8 different times we got, and I think we're people will argue differently and have a look, see what times we're in, and I'd be interested to see what other people think of where exactly are we at the moment, because you discussed a few weeks ago, is there any democracy left in the world? And you're talking of Trump as an emperor and a tyranny and all this. Well, after the mob rule, we go back full circle. We got to a monarchy. And then it goes to the aristocracy and to the oligarchy and all that. So, and it's been repeated throughout history. The Romans saw it. They empirically saw it. This wasn't something that scientific. It was empirical. That actually happens time and time and time again.
Peter, I've got to put an break in because I'm going around out of time because I've got 5 minutes. Thanks very much for your call in there. 952-78-4000 is the phone number. A quick break.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. Joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and live on the line from London by Rex Leyland. To the WhatsApps we go. +34 645 99 67 95. I can't say that one. Tell Peter Texas is the biggest state in America. He needs to stop spreading false facts. Oh, sorry, no, it's Alaska. Okay. Meanwhile, I think that Rex has joined the Simone Biles and Dawn French Club, the Popularity Club. I've got no idea what that means. I'd say to Peter, this is Ian, I'd say to Peter that the situation in Los Angeles is 180% the opposite to what he's suggesting. Trump is one of the originators of all the conflict and hatred around the world. Ian, you're certainly not pulling your punches there. Richard saying, no democracy, Scandinavia, Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands, mobs in Scotland. Does Peter mean reform? Now. The irony is that Los Angeles is a bit like BTTF2, where Biff Tannen, Back to the Future 2, where Biff Tannen is Donito and the poverty lingers outside. Right, with that, I'm going to go to a break, and then we'll be back after the national and international news with more Viewpoint. Back after the news.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Always live, always lively. Welcome back to the second half of Viewpoint with me, Giles Brown, joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and also by Rex Leyland over in London. If you want to get involved with the show, get your viewpoint across. If it could be something national, international or local, we could all talk about the Winter Fuel Alliance. I know that Andres is raring to go about that one, but these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us @TRE Talk Radio.
Check out the Talk Radio official Facebook page. Of course, you can have your say there. We're running the poll. Is President Trump justified in calling in the National Guard in Los Angeles? At the moment, we're still standing on 80% no, 20% yes. Good morning. You can leave a comment there as well, looking at some of the comments coming in. Good morning, Carrie Ann. I hope that I don't have to go back there until there's a change in government. It is like the times of Chile's Pinochet. Yeah, over there now. I don't want to get mistaken and arrested just because I speak Spanish. That's a bold claim, isn't it? Of course,
the reports you hear from people disappearing and everything else, it does resemble the Chile of Pinochet.
Yeah, but you're not gonna
I don't think
he's running.
I don't think it's like that, but of course not. But some of the reports of the things you hear, you think, oh my God, are we heading in that direction?
Yeah, and KK2, the WhatsApps. I'm still chuckling. Good morning, Paul. I'm still chuckling over Rex calling Trump nefarious. Trump probably thinks that's a compliment. Meanwhile,
Trump doesn't know what he means.
Well, it's like you know when you're trying to say diplomacy, isn't it? It's telling somebody to go to hell in the way that makes them sound like they're going to enjoy the ride. So if you want to, for example, if I was to go for a really bad meal and didn't want to say to the hostess, that was the worst food I've ever eaten, I would say that meal was memorable, because obviously it is memorable because it's the worst meal you've ever had. So nefarious, he'd probably think is good. Right then, enough about me. Richard, the Daily Beast reports. We thought about it when we made the movie. Are you kidding? This is the Back to the Future 2. I like the way you have cultural cornerstones in this one. Anybody under the age of 30 will be going, what are they talking about? And they changed that, though. We thought about it when we made the movie. Are you kidding? He says, you watch part 2 again, and there's a scene where Marty confronts Biff in his office, and there's a kind of huge portrait of Biff on the wall behind Biff, and there's one moment where Biff kind of stands up and takes exactly the same pose as the portrait. Yeah, of course. In the movie, Biff uses the profits from his 27-story casino, the Trump Plaza Hotel, completed in 1984, is 37 floors, by the way, thank you, to help shake up the Republican Party before eventually assuming political power himself, helping transform Hill Valley, California into a lawless, dystopian wasteland where hooliganism reigns, dissent is quashed, and wherein Biff encourages every citizen to call him America's greatest living folk hero. Yeah, says Gail. That's what we were thinking about. So there's your project for the weekend. Watch Back to the Future 2 from a cultural reference point. I mean, everybody goes on about The Simpsons being, being written by Nostradamus, but I mean, that's Back to the Future 2. I'm going to try and get Rex back, indeed, on the lines 952 78 4000, and looking at some other things. Popularity Club. Right then, 952 78 4000 is the phone. A quick update on what's happening. Los Angeles has the resources to deal with the protests. The political talking is not hopeful at all. Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan Hochman tells BBC Radio 4's Today programme, we're dealing with a situation where we have thousands of people who are legitimately going to voice their protest over the policies the federal government is involved in, and that's fine. There are individuals who've gone beyond the lines of protected speech. The Los Angeles authorities do not need the additional forces the National Guard and Marines present, and believes it hasn't reached the point where the unrest is beyond the means of local law enforcement. He says he won't get involved with the debate between Donald Trump and California Governor Newsom, but says we believe we have the resources right now to deal with the situation. Newsom's talking actually about suing or suing the American president. So there, Rex. There you are, Rex. Just checking.
I'm here. I'm waiting. Yep.
Waiting. Okay. Well, we're live, Rex. So try not to try not to call anybody an O for anything, or if you must do. Anyway, 952 78 4000. Andres, you were going to say something about the winter fuel allowance, weren't you?
There was a comment from your WhatsApps that he said the winter fuel allowance is not a global issue. Now, of course it's not a global issue, but it highlights a global issue, which is what the states face in terms of services that they need to provide to the population, in terms of welfare state and services to the population. These are growing at a rapid rate because there's more and more needs. The needs for the population. You've got child care, elderly care. You've got mental health care. All of these things that you expect the state to provide support for. On the other hand, you have to all of those services, adding to the welfare state, which is your education, health, and everything else, infrastructures, and all of that we expect and take for granted. All that is funded by the taxpayer. So we have to pay tax to fund all of those things. And there is a point where the states cannot afford to provide all of those services. So we are in a situation where either we reduce the services, which is highly unpopular, like the winter fuel allowance has highlighted, very, very unpopular because people don't like to take those cuts. The other option is to tax people more. But in the tax system in Europe, especially in Europe, there is no so much room to increase taxes because we are already taxed to the hilt in everything. You know, it's not only income tax, but you've got VAT, consumption tax, fuel tax, you name it, we're taxed to the hilt. So we have no room to increase taxes to pay for the extra services that we're expecting and take for granted. The other solution is to borrow money. But that is a snowball because if you borrow money, you have to pay interest, and on that side, the interest keeps growing. Yeah. And on the other side, the services that we expect keep growing because more and more things are adding to the expectation of the services the state has to provide to the population. And in the middle, which is the tax money that we are able to get from people, we got to the limit. Yeah. Where are governments going to get more money from? Are you going to tax people more? It's not doable because if you tax people more, businesses will not want to invest because why to invest to end up with no profit if that profit has to go to the state? So we're in a quandrum that when that gentleman said that the fuel allowance is not a global issue, it is a global issue, especially it's a European issue, I would say more, because in other countries the system don't work like this. But it's a European issue where we have a high expectation of services. We have a taxation that cannot cover all that, but you cannot expand it because we can't expand it anymore. Yeah. And then you've got the borrowing. And the borrowing, what it does is just creates a snowfall of debt and more debt and everything else. And how long this is sustainable, that's the question. I don't think it's sustainable now, but we carry on and we expect more and more and more. So where do we go from here, Giles?
Well, indeed, but I'm going to skirt this and give it to Rex. Because Rex, you're a man on the ground in London. Come on.
Well, no. Well, Andres has encapsulated all that extremely well, and everything he says is absolutely correct. But then, of course, one can turn around and say, but is the system overloaded? Are there too many people, or are there too many snouts in the trough? And you know what I mean by that, because this is the first thing, which of course what Trump's doing reflects back to what's going on there about immigration and people coming into your country and helping themselves or being given stuff by socialist governments at your expense. I mean, that I'm not endorsing it. I'm not criticizing it. I'm not promoting it. I'm just stating the fact that there are too many snouts in the trough. We are overloaded. The services are overloaded, whether it be the NHS, teaching, schools, whatever. And I mean, and governments do things without thinking through to the end consequence, like, for example, what the Labour government have done to the private schools here in the UK. They're now closing down dramatically fast, and therefore the state system is being overloaded with people who can't afford further to send their children to private school and they have to send them to state schools. So the state schools are overloaded. We had the misfortune of going down to A&E at our local hospital the other day. If I told you what it was like, you wouldn't believe. I'm not going to say it live because it might be well past the woke finder general's descriptive powers, and maybe certainly not appropriate. But it was quite shocking. And I just wonder how long we, in this, certainly in Europe, I mean, America works in a completely different way, and I'm not commenting on that, but how long in Europe is this sustainable? And as for taxation, how much more can we be taxed? We're taxed when we die, we're taxed when we're born. I mean, it's all becoming saturated.
Rex, I've got a caller coming in, if I may, if I just want to bring this call live on. Thank you very much indeed. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, Giles. It's John in Benavista.
Good morning, John in Benavista. How the devil are you, sir?
Enjoying the cool weather for a change. Beautiful day.
Yes, indeed. What can we do? What can we do you for, sir?
Good question. I'd like to refer to the Los Angeles riots.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we've gone past it, but yes, you have the floor. You have the floor. You have the floor. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, I think Trump's done exactly the right thing. He's nipped it in the bud. Unlike the George Floyd riots, where cities were literally burnt down, cars were destroyed, shops and businesses were destroyed. I'm all for it. And the American people, about 55%, think he's doing the right thing. You've got to stop these things before they get out of control and people get emboldened and things just get worse. I think Newsom is quietly quite happy that his city's not being laid to waste. I agree with Trump. Use whatever force is necessary. Most of these rioters, they're not peaceful. They're adjutants. Some of them are paid. They're professional rioters. They're there to destroy things. They don't give a damn about.
Good save, sir. I like that. You almost got to the Schweppes, but there you go. You nearly got to the Schweppes, indeed.
Agents provocateurs.
Yes. Right. Okay.
Yes, indeed. That's my point.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. As always, good to hear from you. 95278 4000. But we're looking at the back in the UK. Here comes Andreas.
Yes, one thing that Rex mentioned that, and there's something that I've always wanted to know if there's any statistics. Maybe your listeners who are good on the statistics and they can Google things can help me with these. But I'd like to know what is the balance of the immigrants in any country in Europe in terms of the work they do, the tax they pay, the services they use. Because we're saying, immigration is so bad and everything else. But
coming over here,
the ones they're legal and they work, they tend to be young. I was one. Let me just give you my own example. I know it's not good radio when you talk about yourself, but let me do it for once.
I got my career thus far.
Let me do it for once. When I lived in the UK, I was obviously an immigrant. I was a Spanish person living in the UK. I had a very good job. I earned good money. I was young. I don't have children, so I didn't use the education system for my kids because I was young. I was healthy. I never used the NHS. I had a very well-paid job and I paid a lot of taxes for it. So if you look at my balance sheet, I was quite an asset for that society, for England, because I was all profit. Wherever I was, and I would like to.
What was your occupation?
I was middle manager on a corporate company, FTSE 250.
Right.
So, yeah, not a big deal, but for my standard, I was very well paid, and I had to pay a lot of taxes, which was fair enough. But as I said, because of my youth and the fact that I had no children, I never used any services apart from the roads. But I paid my road tax for my car. Well, the company did, but anyway. But anyway, do you know what I mean? So yeah. I would like to look at immigration with a balance sheet to say how positive or negative it is.
That doesn't make the headlines, Andreas. That doesn't make the headlines.
I can assure you it's positive. We need immigration, but it needs to be controlled.
So why is so popular to rip against immigrants and immigration.
You're demonising the other. It's always the same with these situations.
But let's look at the balance sheet. If we, as Rex just said, is a positive balance sheet, let's manage it properly. And no government and no party, nowhere in Europe, nor in France, nor in Italy, certainly not in Spain, we are mismanaging.
There is one area, though, Andreas, is Scandinavia. They manage it the best. They are the best managers.
Let's look at that model.
That's gone wrong.
Let's look at that model.
Finland.
Let's look at the model. Copy it. There's nothing wrong with copying. There's something successful. Most companies do it from other companies. If you got a model that is successful, let's copy it. But let's not demonize it. This is something that is not going to go away. I said that many, many times. Yeah. You know, I remember saying it in this program when Brexit was on, saying you're not going to get immigration to go away just because we don't want it. And there's people who need. It's human nature. We've been moving. We've been immigrating since the humans are on Earth.
Rudimentary fish flopping onto the shore from the sea. And
we've had famine, we had wars, we had all sorts of things, and people need to move and people want, just to have a better life. So let's manage that instead of demonizing it and more importantly, let's look at the balance sheet and see where is the positive side.
To the lines I go. I know you've been trying to get on call. Excuse me. Morning, caller. Sorry for holding you up there. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
That's okay, Giles. I want to return to the point I made earlier on. What way does a person enter a country, foreign country? Do they just come to the border and dash across the border in a big crowd? Or do they go through the process of applying for permission to enter? Unless this Andreas there talking about himself, he completely obscured that point which I made earlier on. I asked the question, how do you organise these things? Do you organise it like a free-for-all? And then once people are in the country, they're basically legal as far as the Democrats are concerned, and this is the big brouhaha about Trump.
Sorry for interrupting, Felix.
Trump, by the way, is a bankrupt president, totally bankrupt on the big issues of the day, of all the issues, and he's using this as a big. Ho, I've got control of the country, etc. So he sends in the National Guard, but he hasn't got control of anything. He's a completely bankrupt. That doesn't mean that Biden was right. Biden opened the borders and let millions flood in. So the situation is out of control in every respect. And what Rex said there, what I picked up about his visit to the A&E was the poor doctors and nurses. The poor doctors and nurses who are part of the working class and are being abused terribly every situation that they're in, and this has been caused by the system. I've got such sympathy for the working class people in every respect, and these so-called socialists. I hope you come on to talk about Greta later on.
If we have time, we will do. Yeah.
Oh well, you must have time for that. Big issue. Bye.
Thank you very much indeed. 952-78-4000 is the phone. Yes, I just want to, before we go back, let me just get through some of the WhatsApps and then we come back, Rex. So hang on. So I'll be with you in a second, my friend. So, looking at some of the WhatsApps coming in, here we go. Are you ready for this one, Rex? You're bracing yourselves, right? Absolute rubbish, Rex. The tax on private schools has made no difference to admissions. Who knew? Far more worrying are the impending welfare cuts.
Well, you can tell that person 12 schools are closing down within, according to reports, in the coming weeks.
Right, there you go. That's Rex has underlined that and put an exclamation mark at the end. Please provide evidence of lots of private schools closing in the UK. By the way, is this the Trump Supporters Club? Now, I've been called many things in my time, but the Trump Supporters Club, I mean, I had the Tufty Supporters Club badge when I was back in school, but apart from that, I wouldn't. No, I think. But again, Rex, people are questioning your thing about private schools closing.
Well, it was in the Telegraph on Saturday. a very, very big article about the demise.
Right.
The ongoing demise. Can I just go back to Trump, though? I mean, do you think that Trump is... do you think this is all a deflection about the current scandals that are swirling around about Trump and his past sexual behaviour, and also what's the other thing that's causing problems?
Well, I mean, it was the whole Musk. It was Musk, wasn't it?
Connection. We know he was a friend of Epstein. You know, this is like Netanyahu in Israel, where these people stay in power in order to avoid prosecution. And to me, the Trump saga smells a bit like the Netanyahu saga, that these people have a murky past, or they have black marks against their names. And, these things are sort of, it's like a deflection.
As the saying goes, Rex, as the saying goes, I'm not saying that I have skeletons in my closet, but every time I open my mouth, a bone flies out. Right, then, going to go to a break. Andreas, come on, get your words in.
No, I think the scandals of Trump... Trump has got such a core support of people that whatever he does, people are going to. It's a little bit like Sanchez. There was a very, very funny article the weekend talking about Sanchez and
Pedro Sanchez, president of Spain.
Pedro Sanchez. Sanchez is the president of the government in Spain, as you all probably know. But the article said if Sanchez was caught snorting cocaine on the body of a murdered prostitute,
he'd be asked to
people would still be voting for him. And I think that relates to Trump as well. Whatever Trump's scandals are, there's a core of people there who will still support him.
What do you mean if he was discovered? We're going to go for a break.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Always live, always lively today, more so than ever. Rex, Leyland, are you still there, Rex? Just checking you.
I am hanging on here, yes.
Hanging on.
Hanging on.
You mentioned the words private schools, and this strikes a chord with many of our listeners. There's been no drop in new students applying for private schools. There's a small number of badly run private schools which are having to close regardless of tax. The Telegraph is scaremongering again, Rex.
Well, I know that you lot don't get the Telegraph in Spain anymore. So
there's a new thing called the internet. I think I won't catch on.
I know.
I've got Rex. I've got the subscription for the Telegraph and the Times.
Yeah, but not I've forgotten that. No, you're quite right. I rescind on that one totally. No, I mean it is. I mean, we're going to start a new subject as to whether or not it was correct for the Labour government to apply VAT to school fees. That is just the simple question. You either say, yes, it was correct, or no, it wasn't correct.
Right. Fine.
And the erosion across that particular industry, if you want to call it that, is continuing and has been dramatic and will continue to impact. However, I hear from my daughter who lives in America that one of the great public schools are opening up in America. I can't remember which one it is.
Which one?
I think it's
the other place, Ample Falls.
I think it's no, but I'll find out.
Right.
Well, you can look it up on Chapter or whatever it is, or Gemini. But no,
I don't think the first book of the Bible's got anything on private schools, Rex. But I mean, please feel free to. In the third day,
I missed that.
You said check it. You said look it up on Genesis.
Gemini. Well, what the chat things.
Oh, the Google, you mean?
Yeah, the AI things.
The AI. Okay.
Chat box. What's it called?
Chat GTP.
Yes, exactly.
That's the one.
GPT.
GPT is the one about motor racing.
Not GTP, that's the motor racing. Oh, go on.
Anyway. But listen, I don't think we're doing school. We're not doing schools.
We're not.
I think
Okay, right. I'm taking. Hang on. Stand back a minute, Rex. Here we go. Right. So, let's talk about just quickly because actually Felix brought this in. Everybody's. Here's one that'll get you going, Rex. Greta Thunberg.
Yep.
She's been detained again.
She has been detained.
The selfie yacht, quote unquote.
Yes. I think you have to remember that Greta Thunberg, whatever she is called, she was manipulated from a very young age by her parents. Now, imagine if she was your daughter. Would you do the same? I don't think I would do the same. And, of course, she's now growing up and she's become a young lady and so on, and is obviously taken the mantle to be a crusader. Now, that is her choice. Why is she doing it? I don't know. I'd love to meet her and find out what is motivating her. It's certainly not money.
It's the idealism of youth, Rex. Remember when we were young and, had hair and stuff like that?
But the parents were pushing her to do this all the time.
Well, I think it's now. It's taken on. Surely, it's taken on a momentum of its own. So she would be the person that you get involved. I mean, because if this, put it this way, if there was, and for those who don't know, this is a
publicity stunt.
Okay, thank you, Rex. This this is a boat that is going from is it Cyprus, I believe, going into trying to get aid into Gaza, where the situation is, to put it mildly, turning into a. Can I use the word hellhole rather than something else? With the food and whatever.
And the vessel she was sailing in had enough room for a dozen cans of baked beans, but carry on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's very good, Rex. And she was sailing over there, presumably to highlight the thing that we already know was going on, and has been detained, or they were basically boarded, weren't they, by the Israeli forces? Andres, you're shaking your head at me, looking at me like that one of those discarded cans of baked beans.
You mentioned Greta Thunberg. Did she go to school, this girl?
Yeah, of course she did.
Did she?
Yeah.
I think there's a time and a place for everything. But this boat, it's obviously a publicity. It was a publicity boat. They weren't there going to help. They wanted to provoke a reaction from the IDF. There was no point of that. The funniest bit is when they boarded, the IDF boarded the you see the images on television. They boarded the boat and gave them sandwiches wrapped in plastic.
I was wondering what that was, because there's a meme going around.
There's sandwiches wrapped in plastic, so Greta Thunberg wouldn't have been very impressed with the plastic side of things. Right. And the water was in plastic bottles as well. But anyway, it was obvious it was meant to provoke the IDF. It's a publicity stunt. That's what they wanted to draw the attention to.
Things that you wouldn't want to do at the moment. Things that you don't want to do at the moment is provoke the IDF, I would say.
Totally.
At the moment. They've got a few things going on.
And also, all the information we get through the media is that, and I'm not supporting the situation as it is in Gaza, but there is a but. We have taken the focus away from the original cause of the conflict, which was the Hamas attacks. Yeah. The original cause of the conflicts, which was not only the people they killed, but the people they kidnapped and people they're still there kidnapped. And everyone seems to have forgotten that side of things, and all they see is the destruction of Gaza, which has been 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, created by Hamas as well, by doing what they're doing, which is hiding behind the population and, using the tunnels and using the civilian population as shields and everything else. So let's not just forget that side of things. I know that it's bad what we are seeing, and, the civilian population are suffering a lot, and they shouldn't be. But the reality is that perhaps we are partially blaming or not blaming who's partially responsible for it, which is the core of the problem, which is a terrorist organization called Hamas.
Yeah, right. Just want to go to where Greta Thunberg is at the moment. So she's been deported from Israel after the ship she was heading on was intercepted. The Israeli Foreign Ministry's posted a picture of her on a plane back to Sweden via France. campaigners saying they wanted to raise awareness about restrictions facing aid convoys. Rex, have you got any comment? Because I'm going to hit a quick break. If is there something you want to come back on?
I think we've drained Greta. We've drained her.
We've drained Greta.
I think she's made her point. It was a publicity stunt, and it attracted exactly what she wanted. She's done her job, and she's gone home. And I think that sadly we have to all pray for not sadly. Hopefully, we need to pray for a ceasefire, we need to pray for peace, and we need to think carefully how lucky we've been, all of us have been, prior to the invasion of Ukraine and the subsequent Hamas attacks, that we had 30 years of peace in our world, and we were all very lucky. And now our world is in turmoil, and it's very upsetting, and quite honestly, I fear for our children and our children's children. And then to tap it all, yesterday on ITV, 6 o'clock news, a whole thing about global warming and the Antarctica is melting too fast. And there are many things that lie ahead for this, at the moment, sad world.
I think we have a new generation coming up of very young people who are very capable, who are extremely aware of the situation, and they are going to change things for the future, things for the better. And
they have to. They have to.
Well, they have to, but I think they will. I think they're very switched on. They find solutions to problems, whether it's housing, whether it's transport, it's amazing how resourceful they are, and there are. As
long as they don't try and migrate.
Well, the world never stands still. We progress the whole time. Yeah, you think what happened in your parents' day and your grandparents' day and where we are today, and then tomorrow I'll be gone and somebody else will be taking over and doing whatever, and everything will progress. So you're right. But at the moment, the picture doesn't look too hot. It is too hot.
Going to take a quick break. D, thank you. Going to take a quick break and then back with more Viewpoints.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively, into the last 15 minutes of this morning's Viewpoint. Joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo, and Rex Leyland is our Work Finder General, who is over there in the UK. If you want to get involved, make your viewpoint about national, international, local issues. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And it's live to the lines we go. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint,
What's your viewpoint? Morning, Giles, it's Swansea Jack.
Morning, Jack.
I got through it. I got through at last. It's not always easy. You've got to be like Barry John, weaving in and out.
Now you're
talking. Now we talk. No,
yes, go on.
Yeah, King John, as they call him in New Zealand. Yeah, they know a bit about rugby, don't they?
Allegedly.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say I've been listening. Greta Thunberg, right? I was talking with a Swedish lady in Altea this morning, and I was just saying how much I've always admired Greta Thunberg, and she's got what the Spanish call, and I speak Spanish all the time here because I'm in a Spanish village. She's got cojones, so you know what that means, Giles.
Yeah, pigtails.
Exactly. Yeah, and she exactly. I knew you'd know. I knew you'd know. Yeah, and I always admire her, Giles, and I just think, even if it is publicity, because I think there's cynical people about, and people say, oh, she's been brainwashed and manipulated and all these words, But it doesn't matter, Giles. As far as I'm concerned, dim ots, as we say in Welsh, it doesn't matter, right? The thing is, even if she's drawn attention to it and highlighted the problem, much to the Western world's leaders or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. She's highlighted the problem, and Fair play, as we say. Chwarae teg, as we say in Welsh. The language of heaven.
It's the language of heaven, indeed.
Heaven, chwarae teg, fair play.
Indeed.
Chwarae teg.
Thank you very much.
Right, Giles. As your Welsh grandmother would say, there he was gone.
As my Welsh grandmother used to say, there he was gone. Thank you so much. Great to hear from you. 952-78-4000 is the phone number. Sorry, Rex, I
just wanted to say to the last caller that I was educated in North Wales at Ruthin School.
You see,
so there we are.
There you go. Now, yes, go on.
I was once in Cardiff in the 90s, if that counts.
Yes, there's a plaque. Now, back to serious matters. On the studio at TRE.radio, Stephen, why is this station, not Stephen Ritson, Stephen Laws, why does this station keep pushing the lefty agenda? Another half-wit with Trump derangement syndrome, ranting about Trump's actions. Trump is doing exactly what he promised and exactly what people voted for. Can't these idiots see the similarities between the violence in LA and the left-wing BLM violence a couple of years ago? It's what the left do when they don't get their own way. Last time Trump officially won an election, they released the fake virus to collapse the economy and create enough confusion to rig the 2020 election. This is exactly what most people around the world want to happen. Let Trump get on with it. These people are illegal immigrants, therefore they are criminals. They break the law on entering, but want to hide behind laws to resist deportations. Ludicrous, get them gone. No pulling your punches there.
Yeah, but I think that the problem here is not so much the persecution of illegal immigrants. I think what is being highlighted, and that's the core of the problem, is that legal migrants have been targeted as well.
Just random all up and throw them on a plane and get
and that's where the problem is. I mean, if it's illegal by the term illegal, of course you have to do something about it. But if he's a legal migrant and be targeted just because he's a foreigner, that's where the core issue is, and that's where the protest began now. Of course.
And then on the other side of the coin, the admission of these people. I've said this before on the show, Giles, say it again, that I have all sympathy with any refugee from a war-torn country, but I'm not sure that I have the same sympathy with an economic migrant.
Right. I mean, if people are being threatened, for example, by gangs in Mexico or in Guatemala or El Salvador.
Well, but that's an internal thing. I mean, it's like the chap who was on saying that somebody sent something round on social media about a gentleman who can't go home because he's bisexual, and he's left a wife and 3 children, but he wants to stay here because he would be hounded for his sexuality.
Yeah.
But it makes a mockery. It makes a mockery of this whole analysis of who should be legal and who is illegal. And should we open our arms widely to all people or only some people?
This is the thing, Rex. This got me because the ICE, they've been calling in people for appointments. They are called Alternative to Detention Program, and when they rock up for the appointments, they're arresting them. They arrested 2,000 in a single day. That's according to NBC News. I mean, that's. Would you call that fair play?
US or UK? Sorry,
US. So they're saying, come in for your appointment, and when they come in for the appointment, they are arrested and can be deported. I think the Spanish government did something like that. The Philippines about 30 years ago. There was an outcry about that, calling them to Madrid, and then when they came to the embassy, they were summoned.
Well, I know if they did that in England, if they asked all the Filipinos to leave, every hospital would shut.
Well, indeed.
And this is the problem. Yeah, right. Who's going to do the work? Who's going to do the work when these people depart?
Do you see, you've made Rex, you made a difference between the refugees and the economic migrants. Let me, in my opinion, the economic migrant is probably a better kind of migrant than the refugee, and I'll tell you why. The refugees will expect to be looked after. So, where the economic migrant, they come here or wherever it is where they go. Yeah. they want to work, and as I said before, they tend to be of young age, in their 20s or whatever, and they want to work, so they are going to contribute to the place where they go to. I see that here in Spain quite a lot. You get a lot of the economic migrants. They come from South America. If you look around in Spain, I would say 99% of them, they're working, because they come here to work. They don't want anything else. They just come here to work. When we have refugees here, we have to look after them. We have to find them accommodation. We have to find them, so it's most costly to have a refugee.
You have to clear them through.
Because they're an economic migrant, they tend to sort of fit into society much quicker and with less weight on the taxpayer.
I wish you were right, but it does that statement I don't think applies very much to the UK at the moment. And as you know, the boat people, it's gone mad again. The amount of people that are coming in, the highest came in last week or the week before. I mean, and they're all young men and
of working age.
And why are they leaving France to come to the UK? As somebody said so accurately, we could stop the Germans coming, but we can't stop.
Oh, Rex, that's a yellow card. That's.
Oh, there's
81 years on the thing, but yes.
I won't find it, General.
I won't find it, General. We were doing so well.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Right, into the last 5 minutes after that, Rex. I'm glad. Listen. Well, unless we command you to go forth on the Thames and take the boats, your houseboat, but it is not that sort. Right. Looking at the poll, we're asking, is President Trump justified in calling in the National Guard in Los Angeles? At the moment, 21% say he is justified, 78% say no, he isn't, and we got a 1% don't know us. To the WhatsApps, looking about... Okay, here we go. Rex is like Blondie hanging on the telephone. There we go. I've thought of many things, Rex. I consider you many things, but never my version of Debbie Harry. Put it that way.
No. Although she was a great performer.
I'm sure she was, but it's too early in the show.
She's an ex-Funny Girl as well, ex-Playboy, as I am.
Yes, thank you, Rex. That'll put me off my Kimberley biscuits at half time. Right then, moving swiftly onwards. You've just so completely thrown me off my feet.
I know. I do apologise.
Yes, indeed. Right.
I'm so sorry.
Breaking news: Israel deports activist Gerrit Thunberg. Thoughts and prayers. We already knew that. F off. We already knew that Antarctica was melting since the 1970s. Denial, doubt, delay. That should be the new Viewpoint thing. Thanks for that, Richard. Educated by whom, though, Rex? Were they telegraph readers? What about the... Okay, looking at some other pieces. Yes, Rex is the Debbie Harry of Viewpoint. Thank you very much for that one. Sorry, Rex, sorry.
What was that?
Several people think you are the Debbie Harry of TRE because you're always hanging on the telephone, you see.
Okay, got it. I like that. That's a compliment.
Like that indeed.
I like that.
That is definitely a compliment,
indeed.
Rex.
Yes. Indeed. I'm looking at some of the other bits and pieces. Looking at demographics of small boat crossers since 2018. Here we go. 17 and under make up 13%. 18 to 24, 31%. 25 to 39, 37%. 14 over 6%. That is coming off the Home Office. Right. They're saying 2018... I'm just checking the total numbers there, but thank you for sending that in as well. 952 78 4000 is... Yes?
Giles, just to conclude, because I think we're coming up to shortly, aren't we?
Yes, of course,
right. The show. The last time we spoke was the power outage. What is the last...
Actually, that's a very good question.
End story.
Yes, where are we?
Yes.
We still haven't had a final version explanation. They're still investigating. They're hoping that by August we will have a final explanation. August, September,
which year?
from the Spanish government. Also, the EU has instructed an investigation as well that is also due around September, October. In the meantime, there are a lot of foreign investors that invest in the energy program in Spain, because unknown to me, apparently we're very good at renewable energy. But all these foreign money that's coming to invest in these companies in Spain, they are asking a lot of questions and withholding more investment because they think there might be flaws in the actual distribution system, which is what we actually saw when the outage. So I think their fears might be substantiated.
But, so it's taking that long.
It's taking. There must be something quite serious in the whole thing for them to take that long, and they don't want to out it.
Rex, I've got an idea, Rex. I think the basic thing is that Spain's entire grid works like a 3-pin plug in the wall, and somebody pulled it out by mistake and forgot to put it back in.
Well, I know we've all learned a big lesson about what did happen, and it's also a bit smelly, like Thames water.
Indeed. And on that note, as you're overlooking, because I've got 59 seconds, Rex, and I'm going to run out of time.
As I say, people say, "Where do you live?" And I say, "I live in Entre." Costa del Q or Entre de Merde.
Indeed. And apologies to my friend. Indeed, I know that, Rex. I got it the first time around. You're in equal opportunities, whatever, today. But listen, Rex Leyland, take care of yourself on
all that. All the best, Giles and Andreas.
I had a friend who used to say he lived in Costa del Hammersmith.
Indeed. So there you go. Listen, Rex, as always, thank you very much, Rex, for joining. Take care of yourself. And hopefully we'll see you in Spain sooner rather than later.
I hope so. I'm praying that, fingers crossed.
Right, okay, Rex Lane, as always, thanks very much. Almost out of time. It's been my pleasure and my privilege to bring you today's Viewpoint. Don't forget, this programme will be repeated at 7 o'clock. Again, looking at the final comments in... Inter-area oscillations is the reason of the blackouts, which are more common than people have realised. We've got such an educated listenership. Similar oscillations and disconnection happened in December 2016 and July 2021. I remember it well. And finally, to look at the final thing at the poll, was President Trump justified in calling the National Guard? Yes, 21%. No, 78%. Don't know, 1%. Andres, as always, it's been great to have you in the studio.
Thank you, Giles.
This programme will be repeated at 7 o'clock. Stephen Ritson is up next.
On Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.